We have finally made it. It is Arch Madness here, live from St. Louis. Justin Miller, welcome everyone to the Media Row podcast, sponsored by Kelly's Little Nipper, live from my beautiful hotel room here in St. Louis, the Union Station, the Media Hotel here. A lot to get to. We are recording this right after the Valpo UIC game from earlier. So we're trying to change this up for this week, the podcast. I put out that video. Hopefully you saw and watched it. But if you hadn't, here's what we're kind of planning. Because with it being, the biggest time of the year in the Missouri Valley, with it being Arch Madness, we're going to do an episode after every round. So here is our first round episode that will get put out Friday morning instead of at 2 o'clock because we have Drake and SIU playing at noon. So we're pre-recording it tonight. It's going to be a late night, early morning because I'm on with Ross, and we'll get to that in a little bit too. But so we're going to get them out earlier in the morning. So Friday morning we have a show. Saturday morning we'll have a show to recap round 2, the quarterfinals, and preview the Final Four. And then we will preview the championship on Sunday morning. That one will get out. And then Monday, we'll be back to normal of doing our regular show at 2 o'clock, of kind of recapping the weekend itself and also the championship. But happy to have everyone around. I got my Go Bulldogs Get Nippered shirt, which if you've never been a part of a press row or media row, you're not supposed to wear, like, it's kind of frowned upon unless you work with the school to wear team colors. And I try not to. But with, having a great partnership in Kelly's Little Nipper, I wanted to make sure to rep this awesome shirt they got me. And you can get it too, just across the street from Kelly's Little Nipper. And they have Cyclone stuff. They have Hawkeye gear. They have a bunch of stuff that you can go and buy. But this was one that Jeff gave me for the trip. So with Drake not playing, I wanted to wear it. And it was funny. A few people are like, you're wearing a Drake thing? And I would turn around and show them the awesome back. And for those listening on the podcast, it's the Kelly's Little Nipper logo on the back. And I don't care because I love this partnership and I know exactly what we're going to do in the future and how we're going to grow this together. And I will end up looking like Tin Cup, I hope, by the end, And for some of you who maybe not get that reference, I hope you get that reference. But it's when Kevin Costner in Tin Cup has all the different advertisements as he's getting ready for the U.S. Open. But I'm proud to wear this. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kelly's Little Nipper, for getting me all suited up, ready to go for Arch Madness. But like we said, a lot to get to. We have previews for, today's game, I guess I should say, as you guys will be listening on Friday morning. We have a lot to get to with the quarterfinals, a lot to recap from the first round. So let's just jump into it. So let's just start with the very first game of the day and the best game of the day by far. And that was between number 9 Indiana State taking on number 8 SIU, winner to battle the Drake Bulldogs at noon. And really, Southern Illinois and Indiana State did a game of anything you can do, I can do better. It was call and response. You hit a 3. Now watch me drain one in your face as well. So really, it was just a call and response game between these two powerhouses. And I do say powerhouses because these are two programs that have long-lasting history in this conference. SIU fans told me yesterday that they're hoping Drake loses, whether it's from them in the quarterfinals or at some point, because SIU is the only team to win 3 straight Missouri Valley titles in the mid-90s. So they don't want Drake to break that record. So you have two long-lasting programs here and two programs that have had an up and down season. Indiana State going into this season, very much like Drake, had to start brand new. SIU loses their first 5 games of the season and now are looking like a true dominant factor after how they played so well against Indiana State and how they really contained one of the Valley's best players, and we'll get to that in a little bit too. But so it was a call and response game, two teams playing back and forth from each other, and then you just had two stars on SIU just show out, and that starts with Deba, who put up 30 points. That is his sixth 30-plus point performance, and then you had Davis Jr. dominate as well. Both players combined for 52 points, and to go back to Deba, and this we'll get into kind of like what Drake needs to do to prepare for the Salukis tomorrow night, or tomorrow, or I guess I keep messing up because I'm pre-recording this. I guess I should say for noon today, um, is just Deba's ability to get that first step on defenders. He gets the ball around the elbow free throw line. Hell, even the top of the key extended, his power and his ability to get that first step on defenders is one of the more impressive things I saw from him last night. And he utilized that all throughout the game. He realizes what players have foul trouble. He knows how to take advantage of opposing defenses. And so he puts up 30 plus last night. And then you had Davis, who at the start of the game was struggling on defense, was not seeing the ball go down early in that first half. And like we talk about in Drake players and just the players we have really put on a pedestal this season, the ones that we love as fans, whether it's against your team or for your team, of just fans of basketball, it's the players that don't whine. It's the players that don't shake their heads and ruin the team. It's they don't let their personal stuff affect the team. And that's what Davis did. First half he struggled. Second half he comes out and he's able to put up 22 points for SIU. And a third thing of how SIU was able to beat Indiana State was they just controlled the glass. 39 or 37 to 29, and then you add that on top of really handling Samaj Teal, who, if we go back to Wednesday, the reason I picked Indiana State to win that game was because I thought Samaj Teal could take control of a game by himself. I really did, and they focused on him without fouling, but still being aggressive. It was very similar to like how we saw Bradley play against Sturts, where you're going to make the rest of the team beat you. And I feel for Gray because he puts up a career high 27 points and nearly gets the victory for Indiana State, while Teal just struggles to put up 10 points on the day. But SIU controlled the star player, and that does make me a little nervous for the Drake Bulldogs, and we'll now get into kind of what Drake needs to do today to advance to the semifinals once again here in St. Louis. So the keys for the Drake Bulldogs going up against SIU. If we remember, Bulldogs beat SIU 75 to 65 in Southern Illinois, very first day of February. Sturts had 30 points, 21 points from Tavion Banks. Deba still had 20. Davis had 22. So you had the stars performing at their best in that one. But Drake won that game because they caused turnovers and they scored off of those turnovers. They took advantage of those opportunities the Salukis were giving them. 20 points off of turnovers. So if we're going to start looking ahead of the keys for the Bulldogs here going up against the Salukis, number one, you have to win the rebound battle and take advantage of second chance points. Indiana State, they were out-rebounded, and when they got a few offensive boards, they really struggled to find the bottom of the net. And the Drake Bulldogs are, one, a team that is the best in the conference in opposing teams rebounding, and then they're also one of the best teams in second chance points that we've seen throughout the season as well. Number two, for the Drake Bulldogs, you have to hit your free throws. It's that time of the year, and I know Coach Mack said earlier that Free throws, he's not too concerned about. You either make them or you don't. It's that time of the year in March where little mistakes like that have huge consequences. And Indiana State goes to the free throw line 24 times against SIU, and they miss 9 free throws. And in a one-score game, that's a stat that it's almost like it's highlighted when you grab the sheet of paper. So make your free throws, get the rebound, win the rebound battle, and take advantage of the second chance points that Drake knows they have an opportunity to get. If Drake does that, they'll be advancing to the semifinals for a fourth straight season, in my opinion. And Drake against SIU, a great history. We've seen great battles between Domask and Roman Penn, or I think he might have actually guarded Tucker DeVries 2 years ago. But we've seen some great battles with SIU, and I think we're going to see another one where, it may be Deba versus Banks. That could be the highlight matchup, even though Sturtz is the Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. It may be Deba and Banks the main battle to be watching for tomorrow. So those are my keys for number 8 SIU taking on number 1 Drake here in the quarterfinals live from St. Louis. Moving on to what possibly could be the game of the day. Bulldog fans, of course, they're going to be stoked about Drake playing in the quarterfinals. Understand that. But you take your team out of it. The game, from an analysis perspective, and from what we saw yesterday, the Illinois State Belmont game could be the best one of the weekend. Number 5, Illinois State taking on the 4th seed in Belmont. The team split with an overtime game won by the Bruins in Belmont the last time these two saw each other. And how the Redbirds got to this point was they just controlled Missouri State. Missouri State couldn't do anything against Illinois State. And the Bears now 23 losses on the season to end their year. That is the worst they have ever done in their 44 years of history here in the Missouri Valley. And now they leave the Missouri Valley. You had the marching band doing the song, the na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. You had them doing that and the crowd singing along with them. Not a great farewell tour by any means for the Bears. 70-52. And the Bears started off strong too. So you had Missouri State go 4 for 4 in the first 4 minutes, and Illinois State looked like the team that was confused and was bobbling the ball and taking dumb shots, forcing things to Chase Walker when he wasn't ready, or he was trying to force things when he clearly had too many defenders on him. Bears started 4-4. They ended that first half 5 of 29. It was hard to watch, and then you had foul trouble with Bonosu, and then you just saw Chase Walker get more confidence. Kingsinger had more confidence. The entire Illinois State squad, once they got into a rhythm, they never got out of it. Illinois State, they took control of the foul issues. We saw Missouri State. The game went how we thought it would after that 4-minute stretch to start the game by the Bears. After Illinois State figured a few things out after that under 16 timeout, it went how we thought it would. We knew the Bears had a good starting 5, but what happens when you get foul trouble? No one else on the bench to really help out. And then what happens if Illinois State is able to just start knocking down shots and getting comfortable looks and staying aggressive, and Chase Walker starts getting more touches because you have Benonsu sitting with 3 fouls early in the second half. So that game, not much of a surprise, 70-52, sending Missouri State packing. But to preview what Illinois State is going to have to do against Belmont, this is going to be a really fun offensive battle because Belmont all year long has been a team that is not defensively sound, but they're really good offensively. They are the epitome of live by the 3, die by the 3. They are the Valley's number 1 scoring offense, scoring 80 .4 points per game. Indiana State, though, was the second, and we saw what happened to them. And I think we're going to see some similarities because both Belmont and Indiana State were also 11th and 12th in the Missouri Valley in defense. Belmont and Illinois State are very similar on the offensive end. They're top 5 in field goal percentage, top 3 in 3-point percentage. So when you have two teams so evenly offensively, you start to look at the other little stats. What other little things can one team have an edge over that could be the huge proving point of why X team came out on top? And number one is rebounding. I think will decide the winner. Belmont, top 5 in total rebounds, but Illinois State, right behind Drake, is second in opponent rebounds per game that they allow. And we've seen Drake handle teams that rebound the ball well. Vanderbilt, let's go back all the way to Vanderbilt. A big, strong SEC team. Drake handled them. Drake may not get the most rebounds per game, but I think that's also part in how slow they play offensively. And there's not as many possessions to gather rebounds for the Drake Bulldogs. And I think Illinois State has a similar defensive physicality where they just box out so fundamentally sound that it's really hard to out-rebound Illinois State. So I think rebounding is going to truly decide who wins this one. And then Belmont, they've been up and down a roller coaster of a team offensively. When it gets to this point of the year in March Madness, it's always hard for me to pick teams that are going to, I'm sitting there going, if it's their day, they can win. But I like teams that have proven, even in games that they lose, that, man, they still do this in every game. Drake, it's their defense and their physicality. And Sturts. Those are the two commonalities. For Illinois State, they're very similar. They may not have a Sturts that always will put up 30, but they have a Chase Walker that will always put up at least 15, and Kingsinger that will always be right there behind them. And then that defense, I think they will annoy Belmont. I think they will cause Belmont headaches, and I kind of like Illinois State. I told you guys on Wednesday, I said that the way Illinois State played against Missouri State, don't be surprised if I end up having them going into the semifinals. And I really like this Illinois State team. I really do. I think Chase Walker, what he's done has been incredible. Kingsinger has been great. Wolf, the transfer from UNI, has played really well too. He played really good against Missouri State as well. So we'll get to here at the end of the show where I tell you my picks, but I think you know where I'm leaning with that one. Before we get ready for the second half of the games, like they did in intermission with us in the arena, I think we should do a quick little intermission and give a shout out to our title sponsor in Kelly's Little Nipper. Again, I'm so thankful for Kelly's Little Nipper and them being a part of us here at Media Row. Without them, I'm not here. That plain and simple. Without Kelly's Little Nipper, I am not here sitting in St. Louis. So means the world that they are taking a gamble on me. And I think Jeff and I both realize, that there's some really special things we can do here. Put out a video to you Kelly Little Nipper fans yesterday on Facebook. Hopefully you saw it. Just thanking you for welcoming me into the community. I know I've gone to Kelly's Little Nipper for a couple of years now, but I just feel like it's grown already. I mean, I have people texting me. I have people commenting now on videos and posts saying, best hot sausage sandwich in Des Moines, which I completely agree. And that's the type of community that I love, is people that can joke around and have fun. While I'm posting some stats about a UIC Valpo game, I have someone talking about yes, how good the hot sausage sandwich is at Kelly's Little Nipper. So, again, huge thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper for sponsoring, being the title sponsor for Media Row. Go check them out at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines, and make sure to tell them that Media Row sent you. So, moving on to game number 3, we will have Murray State taking on Bradley. Murray State beat Evansville 74-53, a game that I thought was going to end up being closer. But didn't expect the historic offensive performance by Terrence Harcum. Terrence Harcum, historic game, 7 of 7 from the three-point line, career high 31 points. His previous was 28 when he was at App State. But the 7 for 7 from behind the three-point line, that breaks a 23-year-old Missouri Valley tournament record that was set in 2002 by Sean Jepson from Illinois State, and the team he did it against, the Drake Bulldogs. In 2002, Sean Jepson went 6 of 6 from behind the three-point line against Drake, and that record stood. And think of all the great shooters this conference has seen from 2002. You have the Corver brothers, all of them. You have Clayton, you have Kyle. All of the Corver brothers were fantastic shooters. You have Doug McDermott, who was unbelievable. I think, so now, is Doug McDermott the greatest college basketball player of all time? No. In my era, from players that I've actually been able to watch, he might be my favorite and most impressive because he was unbelievable, both at his time in the Missouri Valley and in the Big East. So it wasn't just, if you want to say lower competition in the Valley, no, when he went to the Big East, going up against, future champions in Villanova, he was not, only putting up 10 points. So you have a great shooter in Doug McDermott, Tucker DeFries, DJ Wilkins. I mean, you name them. This conference has seen incredible shooters, and Terrence Harcum breaks it after 23 years, hitting 7 of 7 from beyond the arc, hit half of the total three-pointers made by the Racers. They had 14 on the night, and that's while this team, we know they can be really good offensively just with the athleticism they have, and I've raved about the Racers' backcourt, but their defense has not been one of their strong suits. And last night, going up against a team that was well bigger than you hold them to 24% from the field in the second half, and it just, from then on, Evansville couldn't get anything to go. They couldn't stop Murray State. But while Harcum couldn't miss, another player I do want to give a shout out, and he may not have had the best game, is AJ Ferguson. And that's just because I saw the fearlessness from him. Going up against Connor Turnbull, who stands way taller than him and is one of the Valley's most intimidating defenders and big men post players in the conference. He drove on him. He caused fouls. He was able to dish it out. Murray State's ball movement was incredible, and he was a big part of that, of why they had, their first 8 shots were assisted. But his just fearlessness, I think, really showed why this team could have success against a stronger Bradley team, because we saw Murray State is talented and athletic and proved they're not going to change their style or game plan just because a team has more length like Bradley. Now, Murray State lost both games against the Braves this season, forced overtime in the third to final game. Bradley still won. But the thing is, while I have confidence that Murray State is so athletic that they can compete with anyone, it's just defensively they've been inconsistent in how will they guard a Duke Dean and Zeke Montgomery and Derek Hanna. The backcourt, they can compete I think, with any guards with their athleticism. But Hannah is not a typical big man. And you look at Turnbull's style, and while he can shoot from time to time from behind the arc, yesterday against the um, the Racers, he was 1 of 3 from 3 point, and that he shows his ability to stretch the floor. But Hannah, I think, is more stronger and more effective around that mid-range game that you're going to have to bring out AJ Ferguson, that leaves driving lanes open for Zeke Montgomery, Duke Dean, and others for Bradley. It just makes me a little nervous going into this game. But again, I mean, Murray State could possibly be like that Auburn team from whatever it was, 2019, that was really small but had everyone on the team able to hit threes. And if they get hot, I don't know how you compete with them. So the Racers will take on Bradley in game 3. And then the final game of the day, it will be Valpo taking on UNI. Valpo, that was the biggest shock to me. I had UIC winning that game because I thought UIC's bench was going to overtake Valpo's lack of a bench. I had no idea UIC was going to go on a cold spell that would last the whole game in the worst time possible to uh, hit a cold spell. And you had UIC shoot 24% from the field, and then you had Valpo's offense just do whatever they wanted. UIC, very similar to Belmont in that terms of they've never been strong defensively, really focused more offensively. It looked like they didn't know how to guard on the court. Valpo just, all the cuts were wide open. Boxing out was poorly done by UIC, so they had more second chance points. And the young guns for Valpo just took over. Cooper Schweiger, the former freshman of the year, put up 17 points, and now this year's freshman of the year, and all right, puts up 22, and then he now sits 8th all time in freshman total points scored in the Missouri Valley Conference. I was not expecting that. That was the biggest shock of the first round, was just how lopsided that 6-11 game was, because I thought Valpo for sure was going to struggle with UIC. I thought it was going to be a toss-up, but I did like UIC's bench depth. And we saw it early in that first half when UIC was struggling and Valpo was getting into a rhythm. Flames call a timeout. They make adjustments in the lineup. And all of a sudden, you blink and a 10-point Valpo lead has been cut to 3. And then you go to the under 8, and then you blink again, and all of a sudden Valpo's up like 30-17. It was it was bad timing for UIC to have one of their worst games of the season. So Valpo will take on UNI, which, if you do remember earlier this season, one of the better games in the regular season. They beat UNI earlier this year at home, and it was a really close battle. 80-73 was the final at that one. And you had Titan Anderson, who wasn't taken out of the game. He put up 27 points that game, but just wasn't able to get it done. I, though, think there's going to be lots of reasons why UNI wins this. Number one, physical defense. Again, we've brought up physical defense with Illinois, Drake, and UNI. I think there's a commonality here where you see my brain going when I like to pick these teams. UNI likes to kind of get in your face more, and I think Valpo's going to have a hard time with that, because when they were going up against UIC, they didn't have really a defense to go up against. But they beat UNI by 7 earlier this season. And then the main reason I think UNI wins this, just too many reasons for payback. It is the biggest stage of the year for the Missouri Valley Conference. You were beat by this team earlier, so you're wanting to get payback there. And then look for, and I heard this from Josh Betts, who covers UNI, and he told me this, and he said, look for Trey Campbell to have a big game because he did not get Defensive Player of the Year, and that was an award both Jacobson and himself were really thinking he had a shot at. So you have payback there too, and to kind of prove the doubters wrong for Trey Campbell. And UNI second-ranked defense in the Missouri Valley Conference, I think Valpo is going to have a hard time with that as well. So real quickly, let's kind of go through what we think will happen in the quarterfinals. I went 2-2 in that first round. I had Indiana State and had UIC winning, but let's hope we can do a little better here. SIU at Drake, or taking on Drake. I think the Bulldogs win this one. I do think it's close just because that's Drake's style of play, but I do think Drake is the better rebounding team, and that's going to be a huge factor. And I like Tavion Banks, coming off of the Sixth Man of the Year award. I like Sturts coming off of that Player of the Year award. I think Howard is going to be a big factor, especially when you're talking about the rebounding battle and the second chance points. I think Drake wins this one and advances to the semifinals for this fourth straight season. Game 2, Illinois State and Belmont. I don't like the inconsistencies from the Bruins, so give me Illinois State. Give me Chase Walker and Kingsinger dominating once again for the Illinois State Redbirds. And again, I like the rebound opportunities that Illinois State has in that one. Game 3, Murray State against Bradley. Bradley wins this one. I think it's going to be closer than most originally would think after the performance we saw from Murray State tonight, but it's one of those, did they use up all their good shots? 14 three-pointers against Evansville. It's going to be tough to come back and shoot as good as that again, especially against the second seed in Bradley, a team that had a night off as well. So I like Bradley winning this one and taking down Murray State just because I think their length is going to be able to overcome the high athleticism that Murray State possesses. And then Valpo and UNI to round out the quarterfinals. I like UNI because I like the payback and the storylines that the Panthers have the opportunity with. Valpo, good young players. They're showing what they could do moving forward, as this is now 2 straight years they've made it to the quarterfinals. But I just don't think it's their time yet. Titan Anderson is going to be a bigger matchup for Schwieger, and I think Trey Campbell also is going to be able to help contain All Right as well, the highly, highly talented freshman. So those are my quarterfinal picks. Thank you again for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment on all of our social media pages. As always, be sure to keep following along because we're trying to pump out as much content as possible here in St. Louis to, if you're not able to come here, to try to feel like you're a part of this, because you are. So really, really thank you to everyone and the listeners following along here at Media Row as we're live from St. Louis. Big quarterfinals tomorrow. So this episode will be followed by our semifinals preview that will also get released early Saturday morning as well. Thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper for being our title sponsor. Also, thank you to our sponsor as well in Ross Peterson from Agency Iowa for also helping us get here to St. Louis as well. Live from the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament, it's Arch Madness. March begins here on Media Row with me, Justin Miller. See you Saturday.